Let's get to work right now, and we start on Thursday night, 8:15 p.m. Eastern. We have the Denver Broncos at the Kansas City Chiefs. Broncos 1-4, 1-1 on the road. It was awful watching them fall apart against the Jets. Now, it was very good for you, awful for me. Kansas City 4-1, 1-1 at home. We're at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, Missouri. 76 Fahrenheit clear, but we have a lot of wind at 16 miles per hour and the possibility of showers late in the game. We'll have a better idea. Right now, we're 48 hours before kickoff. We'll have a better idea, but there's a real distinct possibility of showers about halfway through the game. So let's get to work here. We will start. I got all the team rankings up here. Let's go over to the line history. That's where we will begin this. And we are sitting here with the Broncos plus 10.5. As the Chiefs have become so dominant in this division, these have been excellent spots to back Denver. Now, obviously, this Denver team is a mess. And maybe that's not something that we want to do. But historically, a double-digit dog here in Kansas City, a double-digit division dog has been very good to me. Hard for me not to want to go to it. Denver opened up plus 10.5 at minus 114. That plus 10.5 is now minus 108. We get over to the total in this one. We are sitting now at 47.5. This has dropped mightily. This opened up at 51 and has dropped down to 47.5. We're going to be talking about that throughout this show. Big drops, huge drops in these totals, and a lot of them are weather related. And the question then will be, is it too big of a drop? Here we have 71% of the tickets on the Chiefs, but just 33% of the cash. From a total scenario, we have 72% of the tickets and 88% of cash on the under. Clearly, that is sharp action moving this so far down. Sky Dragon says the market has moved on the under. It's the right spot. You can only lay with Kansas City, but they don't cover. So a tiny bet or no bet. Nate Dog 420 in the house. Great to see you. So let's go to X's and O's. The Broncos come in off their fourth loss in 5 games to start the season. It was 31-21 setback versus the Jets. Russell Wilson now 5-14 as Denver's starting quarterback. It's pretty incredible to think that would be the situation here. He was 20 of 31 for 196 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He ran 7 times for 49 yards. He also lost a fumble. Javonte Williams out of the lineup with a quad injury. Still waiting to hear if he will be back this week. Jaleel McLaughlin ran 9 times for 68 yards, caught 3 passes for 21 yards. And Samaje Perine ran 6 times for 22 yards and caught 4 passes for 73 yards. He did lose a fumble. Their passing offense is all check downs to the running backs. It's real ugly. Judy has yet to be unleashed. He finished with 6 catches for 50 yards, which is basically his average this year. And where the hell is Cortland Sutton? 4 catches for 40 yards over his last 2 games. If Judy and Cortland Sutton aren't going to be weapons, and all you're going to be able to do is check down to Jaleel McLaughlin and Samaje Perine, I don't know how you're going to be able to keep the opposing offense off the field. Their offense only put up 169 yards through the air. They can't be counted on in crunch time. They went 3 and out on 4 of their first 5 drives after halftime. The other possession was a lost fumble on the second snap. So Javonte Williams has been listed as a limited participant at this point. That's all we know about him. But, the difference between, Jaleel and Samaje and Javonte, is it that big? I'm not sure it is. The defense got some pressure, 4 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, but still somehow looked abysmal. It's unbelievable. They've allowed 36.2 points per game this season. They allowed the Jets with Zach Wilson at quarterback to put up 407 total yards. Patrick Surtain had an important interception late, but the secondary does not look good. And their red zone defense had their best game of the year. The Jets went 0-5 in the red zone. 0-5. Nose tackle DJ Jones injured his knee in the second quarter. He was the only non-participant listed at practice. Their center, Lloyd Cushenberry, with the quad, Mike Purcell with the ribs, defensive tackle, and safety Justin Simmons were also limited participants. The Cushenberry should be fine. He's played every snap this season. Justin Simmons returned this Sunday after missing 2 games. Outside linebacker Baron Browning is still on the PUP list. he was a limited participant with a knee injury. He was a limited participant in all 3 practices ahead of last week's game. It would be huge if they could get Baron Browning into the lineup. The Chiefs come in off a 27-20 win at Minnesota. They're rounding into form. Patrick Mahomes was 31-41 for 281 yards, 2 touchdowns. 10 different receivers made catches. Travis Kelce, 10 for 67 with the touchdown. He did hurt his ankle. We are not entirely sure what's going to happen to the ankle, over the hours before. But I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't in the lineup. He wants to be in the lineup. Pacheco, 16 carries for 55 yards, 1 touchdown. This is such an efficient offense. 9 of 15 on third down, 3 of 3 in the red zone. Right now, they're 7th in the league converting red zone opportunities at 63.2%, and the defense looks so strong. I mean, they had pressure on Cousins all night, sacked him 3 times, hit him 12 times. The big thing about this defense was L'Jarius Sneed locking up Justin Jefferson. That was unbelievably impressive. He had 3 catches for 28 yards. I know he pulled his hamstring late in the 4th, but L'Jarius Sneed was a monster. Nick Bolton, 3 games in a row he's missed. Drew Tranquill's done a pretty good job replacing him. Honestly, I know this sounds absolutely nuts, but I want the Broncos here, and that's just a foolish thing to say out loud. and hopefully by the end of this breakdown, I will have just let go of it. I understand the move from 51 to 47.5. Troy Torrence, you are 41-38, hitting at 51.9%, but your average line of plus 129 is giving you 8.34 units of profit and an ROI at 10.56%. Take it away, my man.
I'm on the same page as you, looking towards the Broncos. Just seeing the 10.5, immediately you start leaning towards the dog. In this case, it's the Broncos. It doesn't matter really who it is. When the spread's this big, I'm always starting looking at the dog because this matchup in particular is close. At Arrowhead, at Mile High, it really hasn't mattered. We know the narrative behind these Chiefs and these big numbers. They struggle to cover them. Historically, they have. And it's interesting because the narrative this year has been, well, the defense is better this year, so they should start covering these bigger numbers. Well, I don't know if I'm a believer in that thought, because is this the best defense Mahomes has ever had? He's played against the Bears, the Jets, the Vikings, the Jags, and the Lions. Their run D on PFF ranks 24th. Their pass rush ranks 24th. Now, they do have really good coverage behind that, like Jimmy was talking about with Sneed locking up Justin Jefferson. But, the issue with backing the Broncos, I mean, this historically, I touched on all this last week, right? Historically bad offense. They can't defend the run. Their run block win rate is awful, but it's against the Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs really are not a team that's going to be able to ground and pound and move the ball on the ground, although they will slice and dice you just death by 1,000 cuts. Patrick Mahomes, ADOT's down this year compared to where he's been at in the past, average depth of target. And I think that kind of was reflective of his offense. I still think there's something wrong with this Chiefs team. Patrick Mahomes, I was talking about a bear market the first couple of weeks, and I think something's wrong with this offense. It just seems like, compared to what you're usually seeing out of the Chiefs, the well-oiled machine, the timing's off. Obviously, you have drop passes and some mishaps with the skill position on the offensive side. And like I was just talking about, Patrick Mahomes is bottom 5 in air yards per attempt. And the company he has down there at the bottom of the list is really kind of embarrassing. But he's way more efficient, way more effective. He's sacked at the lowest percentage of his pressures in the NFL, and he has been his whole career. Guy's still brilliant, don't get me wrong. But it just feels like the Broncos could keep this game within double digits. Chiefs at home on primetime. In my database, it goes back about 2.5 years at this point. 2 years prior, plus a half, whatever this year is, 30% through. 0-4 ATS. They're 3-1 straight up. 3 wins were all by 3 or less. 2 of the wins were by 3. 1 of the wins was by 1. The loss they lost by 1 point. That's 0-4 on primetime games. So the only way I'm looking in this game is to back the Broncos. And after hearing you talk about it, Jimmy, I was really starting to consider it more realistically.
I am too. I don't know if I can press the button. It's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to put your money on it. Markel says sounds like an under. It's an under that would have already had to have been bet. I do not think that we should chase it at 47.5. I just think that's irresponsible long term. So it feels like an under, but it has to be let go.
Hey, to be honest, the sample I was looking at with the Chiefs at home in prime time is 1-3 to the under, but the totals were all extremely high. The total's like a 51 went under, and it landed on 48. So I think that opening line is really where it's over or pass on the total at this point, prime time or not.
Yeah, I think that the getting a better sense of what's going on weather-wise when we get closer to the game, because the winds are 16 miles per hour. Uh, I think the Broncos can stay in this game. I don't see a world where, we've talked so much about motivation with big favorites, and it's crucial to have that motivation. And look, I was on the Chiefs first half when they played the Bears at home. The offense has struggled through 2 weeks. They had to show out, and they did, and they have. You could say that wasn't a very impressive performance in New York, and that's a fair thing to say in the 23-20 victory. But they looked very, very good last week, despite Kelsey not being on the field for parts of that game. I guess at this point I don't know if I have the balls to bet the Broncos. I don't, but I think that they cover this, and honestly, I hope I get there, man. I hope I can get there.
I mean, I feel like I need to mature a little bit and bet this 10.5.
Sammy Culmer saying potential look ahead to the Chargers next week. The Chargers have a real tough schedule, but we'll get into that when we get to the Monday Nighter. I just don't know if I can do it at this point, and I'm not going to this isn't about picks. It's about what are we betting? There's so much on the line. So at this point, the total from 51 to 47.5 makes sense, and I want to be on the Broncos. I want to be on the Broncos. And the more I talk about it, the more confidence I'm getting. And I hope I get enough confidence to bet them, for better or for worse. Anything you want to add before we move on to Sunday action?
I'll probably end up with Broncos on my by the end of the night. Nothing yet.
Well, is this a spot where we might want to wait? If we see it move from 10.5 to 10, we could say, oh, this is a right bet. But is it possible that the public comes in and hammers the Chiefs after what they saw last week, and it might be prudent to wait?
You're probably right. I'm just getting that feeling. Like I just got that overwhelming feeling right now as we're talking about this game that I should bet it. So I think you're right, though, Jimmy. I'm going to wait. It doesn't matter, right? If it moves on to 10, that's a strong move, and the database turns that out to be true. If we get more points, then we get more points. It's really nothing there, and I love it. I think I'll be able to wait, hopefully, but it's probably going to be on my card.
DG says, why? What does Denver do well? And I know we got to move on here. He says, previously could rely on the defense to hold Kansas City like 20 and lose 2010. What can you trust? I can trust motivation. I think that the Denver has everything on the line in the showcase spot. Not that they're going to be a good team this year. And the Chiefs just want to win and get the extended rest, the mini bye. They just want to win this game and move on. I don't see this as a prove anything situation like I saw in the Bears spot. That's all. I just don't see the motivation. I don't see the motivation.
Exactly right. It's a survive and advance type of spot. That's it.
All right, let's roll on. That is the Thursday Nighter.